Today, on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with JAX Williams. When did JAX Williams first cross paths with professional wrestling?
I think I was about 8 or 9 years old. I think everybody always remembers it like to the T when they first saw it. I went on a trip with my cousin and my grandmother to Napanee, Ontario. She was like her hometown was there, and she took us to Walmart to buy like some toys, I guess, just as a treat for us. And my cousin was loading up on like all the wrestling figures. Like he got up John Cena, Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, and I was pretty interested in that. And then once we got home, I talked my parents into letting me go to Blockbuster, and then picked up a video game and I just dove in, had to learn all the wrestlers and everything like that.
Do you remember which video game that was?
Yeah, it was Day of Reckoning for GameCube. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So just real
Yeah.
quick, was there a favorite performer that you had in that game, or person to play as?
As a kid, I loved Rey Mysterio. Like he was like a superhero, the masks, the jumping out of the stage entrance and everything. So I loved Rey Mysterio.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, was there a point where you actually got to start watching the product regularly?
Yeah, I started watching around 2005, like maybe the end of 2004, early 2005. I actually remember the first match I saw. It was like a SmackDown they did in Japan, and it was Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio. So it's like not really a better intro to wrestling than that, I don't think. So 005 basically, and then I was a hardcore fan for a couple years, and then kind of slipped more into casual fan as I got to high school and college and stuff like that.
Yeah, I find that with a lot of people, as you grow up, you hit adolescence, social development, you can maybe even get other interests like other sports, it fades in and out. Was there like a trigger where you started to get back into it a little bit more regularly again?
There was actually two. One of them was when The Rock came back, and I think I was maybe 16 at the time. He came back to wrestle John Cena, and that was huge news, obviously. So that pulled me in, and then I basically followed it semi-regularly from that point up until around, I want to say 2016, like end of 2016, when I wrapped up playing basketball at school, and I needed something to do, and I just dove hardcore into wrestling, like harder than I've ever been before into it. Yeah.
All right, so before I move forward, I just got to ask, during that entire course of fandom, who were some of your favorite performers, whether they were video game, television show, or even independent, if you had a chance to experience that yet?
I never actually saw independent wrestling up until that point, but my favorites were like Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels. And then I got introduced to AJ Styles through like a best of AJ Styles DVD when I was, I think maybe 11, 12 years old. And I got pretty into AJ Styles and TNA a little bit at that time. So those were like the main guys off the top of my head, like that I think I like the most.
Yeah, I think anybody who paid attention to TNA back then got familiar with AJ Styles. I remember I bought the best of Jeff Hardy TNA DVD, and like every
Yeah,
other match was against AJ Styles. So regardless,
yeah,
you're getting
yeah.
hit with him anyway.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's phenomenal for a reason, right? Take
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
through the trigger event, right? What was it in your mind that decided like, hey, I want to pursue this. I want to look into wrestling school. I want to actually take that leap from fan to performer.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded earlier, but I played basketball like my whole life from like age 10 up until I was like I think 21 when I finished in university playing. And I just missed having some type of athletic goal to challenge myself and to just try to work at every day. And I just enjoy like competing, being physical and stuff like that. And I always tell this story. I was on YouTube one day and I saw a match. The title was just all caps, greatest match of all time. I just clicked it, and it was Kenny Omega versus Okada, I think from Dominion. The one where they did like the 60-minute draw match. And for whatever reason, like the athleticism in that match blew me away. And after I finished it, I was like, I think I have to at least give this a shot. I think I could do it.
So what did that look like? Did you just Google a school? Where did you actually start your training?
Yeah, I Googled just pro wrestling training, and Hamilton Pro Wrestling came up. I live in Hamilton, so it was the closest one. I didn't actually even believe it was real because I always joke with Rip about this, but like there was no phone number, no email, no contact information on the page at all. So just shot a DM on the Facebook, and he got back to me, and I went down, did a trial, like a first day intro class kind of thing, and I was hooked. I loved it.
Do you remember any of your thoughts or feelings the first day, the first week, the first month of performing? Maybe some of the things that were a little bit more challenging than you expected, or things that maybe came more naturally because you already had an athletic background?
Yeah, so the things that I noticed was you always hear like the famous stories of like the first bump people take and they wake up and they can't turn their heads and stuff. I didn't have that so much. I actually found the first bump to be like, maybe because my expectations were like it's gonna hurt so bad that when I did it, I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I could do that. It was all like the rolls, the running, the jumping, any of that stuff I picked up pretty fast because I was used to moving around and stuff. I did struggle, and I still to this day, like I have a hard time with a lot of the technical like grappling and stuff because it's just not familiar to me. Like it takes me quite a while to learn and figure that stuff out. So that was like the earliest challenge for sure.
Did you find that you had to change like your workout regimen to switch from basketball to wrestling? Because obviously with basketball, you're going to be training different things. With wrestling, and if I'm being too complimentary, you have a great physique right now in the ring. Did you have to make some adjustments in order to kind of cater to a different profession?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's kind of just the workouts now are just all tailored towards just getting big and muscular and having that like the physique side of things. Because as much as wrestling is like athletic and artistic and everything, it's also like heavily cosmetic business. I mean, there's you can take your personal like the way you approach wrestling in a million different ways. There's no right or wrong way. But I just wanted to have like that classic kind of wrestling look. It's something I liked watching as a kid, so I just try to emulate that now. And then I kind of just have been able to maintain like the coordination and the agility from just years and years of training like that. So I don't do a whole lot now in that regard to training, other than just what I do in the rings when I train during the week and stuff like that. But mostly just about physique and getting stronger and bigger.
Yeah, and it is absolutely a great look. I know the first time I saw you, I was very impressed. I was like, this looks like a prototypical wrestler. So I'm not going to get into actual routine because that's not as fun, but I do want to ask, do you have a favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal? Yeah, I'm a big sweets guy. So chocolate, I love chocolate. Like a nice, like pretty good sized bag of chocolate almonds for a cheat meal is usually my go-to. I'd say 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah, chocolate almonds can be very dangerous.
Oh yeah.
So going back to training, how long were you doing the training before you actually started to get a chance to get in the ring and have a match, whether that be, like a quick battle royale or even start getting booked for anything?
Yeah, so I started training, I think it was around May 2019, first classes I did, and I was pretty consistent, nonstop every week. And then I actually had my first match in a tag team with my old tag team partner, Robbie Cosmos, at Hamilton Pro Wrestling. We did a tag team match in February 2020. So about 6-ish months or so of training before we got thrown in there. And then obviously after that, the world kind of went downhill. So yep, I did one match and then it was basically nothing until I guess fall 2021 when things started to run again.
Okay, so going back to that first match though, do you recall any of your feelings or reactions to it, or even some of the reactions you received from people backstage or the audience after the fact?
Oh yeah, I remember. I was very nervous for it. I felt prepared. Like it wasn't like I wasn't worried about messing up or anything like that. And also when you have a tag team partner with you, it kind of takes like at least half the eyes are on your partner and not you. So it kind of alleviates a bit of the pressure. I do remember like standing there in front of the curtain when our music hit and thinking like I can't do it. I'm just like it's not too late. I'll turn around. It's okay. But once he hit the curtain, it was magic. It was like all that stress went away, and we had a really positive reception, like, really positive. Everybody seemed really happy with it. The one of the things that was kind of funny to me was the reaction to like how I looked. I guess people, I train in whatever like Rips Gym, like Hamilton Academy. It's cold in the winter. Like it's colder inside there or the old building than it is outside. So I'd be fully layered up, and then you strip down, and everyone's like, "Oh, like I didn't know you were in shape and stuff." So that was a funny part of that too.
Guessing that the break that you were alluding to would have been when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So how do you keep the motivation and the momentum going when the world shuts down and you've only had like one match?
It was hard because you kind of felt like your legs just got cut off, like right underneath you. 'Cause coming out of the first match, like it was probably one of the highest highs I've ever felt. Like, it was so cool, and then you're so fired up to keep going. And then yeah, it was tough. Luckily for us, like we still were able to get in the ring a little bit and train throughout the pandemic. Like when it was all different phases, and you could do some things at some times. So any opportunities I had, I jumped on and made the best of it. And then I hired a coach online just as like, I can sit around and mope, or I can at least try and pass the time as efficiently as possible. So I hired a coach and did some online training just to keep me motivated. And I just took it one day at a time, really.
Okay, and was it a situation where once things started to open up again and shows started to get booked, you just hit the ground running?
Yeah, I was. And I hate to say it now because during the pandemic, like we were also miserable, right? But it ended up being really good for me in the sense that I had all this training built up over the months and years since the first time people saw me, that when I started off, it was like I was still new and very inexperienced, but I think maybe a little less so than people would imagine for having like 2 or 3 matches, just because all you have to do is practice and wait. So it helped me in terms of, I think I looked maybe a little more polished than I was just because all that practice time.
Now that you've been competing fairly regularly, and I do see postings that you're doing matches all over the place, can you take me through some of the highlights that you might have experienced, whether they be for milestone purposes, OMG moments, or even crowd interactions? Just matches that if you sit back and think of highlights really stand out.
Yeah, oh, that's tough. I've had so many big highlight matches. The first time I got to wrestle my trainer was really cool, Rip. And that was a cool opportunity. We did like a feud, and that was like my first big singles match with an established wrestler. So that was a really good opportunity. I got to wrestle Brian Cage at Top Tier Wrestling,
Oh, wow.
which was pretty sweet. Yeah, just like the guy's a monster. So it was cool just to see him up close and see like what the people at the highest levels, how they approach it and stuff. A lot of stuff I've done with Smash, I really enjoyed. Like my matches with, I did a multi-month feud with Brent Bank. It was a lot of fun. I learned so much from that whole experience. It just felt like every time I was going to shows, it was like I was being educated in ways like you just pick up on subtle things that the great wrestlers do. I got to wrestle Cody Deaner a couple times. At one time at Destiny was really cool. And again, it was like I felt like I was in school. Like he was teaching me things. He wasn't like trying to, but it was in the match and just following along, trying my best, and you're just absorbing kind of how the best operate. So, and then I did another match I did with Jesse V at Super Kick. That was a good one because I was driving to the show, and I guess my opponent couldn't make it. They were coming from the U.S. and he's like, "Oh, it's me and you in the main event hardcore match," and I was like, "God, it's never done a hardcore match at this point." And he's a big, strong guy. So I was pretty nervous. The matches that I always think back the fondest of are the ones where I feel very uneasy going into them. It's kind of like a sink or swim moment because you just see it's like, all right, I guess we'll see what I'm made of here, and that's kind of the thrill that I get from those.
That's awesome. Do you enjoy the challenge of adopting to different performers? I know you've had great matches with guys like Von Vertigo, who are a little bit smaller, but then also like Brian Cage, probably a rare occurrence where you're the smaller of the two guys, or even Jesse
Yeah,
V. Do you find that you enjoy kind of catering a match to what opportunities and different things that you can do with different size performers?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it keeps me like versatile. I never want to box myself in. Like I think there's some guys that are very like they're specialists in certain aspects of wrestling, and that's like if you have a skill or a quality about you that nobody else has, then I think that makes a lot of sense. But like I can't pick one thing about myself where I'm like I could bank on that. So I just try my best to be the guy that you could put in anywhere. That way, like I'll hopefully never be out of work. I'll always have matches and stuff like that. That's kind of the way I think about that.
And I do know that in your time so far, you have had a chance to carry some championships. Do you recall the first time that you won a title and what it felt like to lift the belt over your head?
I actually can't remember which one came first, but I won the Hamilton Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles with Robbie Cosmos as Millennial Falcon. That was cool. I don't know if that came before. I also won the GCW Ontario Independent Championship. Those happened very close to each other, so I couldn't tell you which one was first, but it's a cool feeling just knowing that like you're trusted to have this spot and like you're relied upon to have matches worthy of a championship belt and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a cool privilege to have, definitely.
All right, so let's take a peek into the bucket list. What are some of your next goals? We're not talking long term, but just where would you like to see JAX Williams next? Whether that be in the ring against a certain performer, at a certain company, or even at a different destination if you wanted to travel for a show or anything like that.
I definitely want to travel more. Like I just recently was on the East Coast, which was a goal of mine. So check that one off and hopefully go get out to the West Coast sometime this year, and then go to the US a little bit more. I did that a bit in the past, but we'll definitely be doing more of that. I think as far as like where I see myself going, I'm really enjoying kind of this character that I've slowly been developing, like the sponsors and the athlete gimmick, and it's a lot of fun for me to do just because like this is the stuff I grew up watching on TV, like LeBron James being a heel with the Miami Heat, like stuff like that. So I want to go even harder into that and continue developing it. Like that's kind of like all my focus is on. Just how do I kind of bring this to life more and more? And then as far as like destinations and stuff, I don't think too much about that just because it's kind of, I guess, not so much in my control other than just getting in the car and going places. But as far as getting called for this or that, it's kind of just like if it happens, all I can really focus on is just trying to hone what I'm doing now and make it as good as possible.
Talking about that character that you've been developing with the, endorsements, drinks, and things like that. Do you enjoy the fan interaction that comes with being that heel that is very in your face and very brash and kind of like telling people, hey, this is what you need to do?
Yeah, I love it actually. I love it a lot more than I even thought I would like it. And the more I do it, and the more comfortable I get in the role and stuff, and I noticed it big time at the Rebel show we did with Smash when I wrestled Vertigo in the hardcore match, and you're kind of scanning around the audience, and you're getting the desired reaction, like that very like just please shut, will this guy ever shut up kind of thing. But you can see like the smiles on people having a good time with it. I think in the modern day, that's the goal, right? Is like get that reaction that you want, and the fans are still having fun with what you're doing. So I love it. Yeah, it's a good time.
And where did the jaw-dropping athletic excellence come from?
I actually have to give a lot of credit to Sebastian with Smash. Like we were talking a lot back and forth, and we couldn't come up with like I couldn't come up with a nickname. It was I've gone through like five or six nicknames throughout the course of me starting wrestling. And then it was finally like, well, if we can't come up with a nickname, like how about an acronym? And then just kept spitballing ideas back and forth and finally just settled on that one that I liked, that thought it was unique. Like you turning my name into an acronym was never something that I would have thought of unless until like the brainstorming started. And that's where that came from. Just desperate for some type of name.
And now it's
Yeah.
even your entrance theme. Like it's really taken to the
Oh yeah.
character.
Yeah. That entrance theme is amazing. I love it.
That is awesome. How did you feel first time you heard it?
Oh, I loved it. Like I loved it a lot, and then I just remember like the reception to it on the shows, even with the all the wrestlers in the back and everything. Everyone was like singing it to me. I was getting messages at people asking me to send it to them because they just wanted to have a good time. It's catchy, so yeah, I love that song.
Feel like I would drop the ball in the wrestling interviewer market if I didn't ask the tried and true question of dream opponents. Who is it out there that is still lacing up their boots and you don't have to be grounded in reality? It doesn't have to be somebody in your backyard that you would get into the ring with if you had the chance.
Probably Roman Reigns. Yeah. Why not just go for the best guy in the world, top guy? Yeah.
That's why it's called a dream. You don't stop anywhere, right?
Yeah, I think it would just be like you just want to feel like how it feels to stand across from somebody that because when he makes an entrance in an arena, it's like you can kind of feel it a little bit, like you feel their presence, even if you're nosebleeds, you feel that. So I'd want to know what that feels like up close and as personal as you can get.
Wicked. So just sidestepping a little bit, what sort of interest do you have outside of the ring when you have some time to just step away and recharge the batteries?
I'm a big basketball guy. Obviously, I keep mentioning that. That's pretty much all. Like wrestling is it's one of those hobbies that's hard to call a hobby because it pretty much takes up all your mental energy when it's not taking up your physical energy. Like you pretty much, I could be sitting down watching TV, but my head's still spinning of other things. Or you'll watch a show and some character might say some line, you're like, oh, I'm gonna say that. And it's kind of never stops, I guess. But yeah, I like to go to the gym, watch sports, hang out with my friends whenever we get the chance, stuff like that. Yeah, we're a pretty laid back person, honestly.
All right. So I'm a big basketball guy too, played shooting guard, going through school and everything like that. So I love to ask performers that were former basketball players this question,
Yeah.
kind of alluding back to the old WCW days with Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone. If you had a chance to set up a tag team match, Who would be your partner from the NBA, and who would you be facing against from the NBA and from the independents?
Do they have to be players? They can't be like personalities within the.
I want to say players, but I'm curious what you're referring to.
Well, because I just think going off right now, I'd have LeBron as my tag team partner,
Okay.
and I'd probably want to set up a tag team match, have Stephen A. Smith on the other side, and just see what happens.
That would be interesting, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know how much of that rivalry is just put on for the cameras, so to
yeah. Who
speak.
knows, right? Who knows?
I know that if I was to do a match, I'm putting Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green against one another because they're already throwing chokeholds on each other as it is.
Yeah. Or you could do like an MVP on the pole ladder match, get Shea and Jokic in there, and see who comes out.
That's going to be an interference from Joel Embiid anyway. He's running in on that
Yeah,
one. So,
for sure, for sure.
just getting back into wrestling, I do like to ask everybody this question, and it can be a little bit tougher sometimes. If you had an opportunity to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself that was just getting into the business or even just thinking about starting to get into the business, what advice would you give yourself that could possibly help somebody who today is struggling with the same decision?
I think I've had pretty much the same mentality since I started. Like, just I've only just focused on trying to just learn as much as I can and just make the best out of whatever spot I have. Like, it's been my mentality since day one. I know it sounds cliche, but I would tell whoever, just focus on just making yourself as valuable as possible, and just I would say, like, just slowly pick on the weaknesses that you have, and just one at a time try to work on them, and just kind of get lost in that process instead of focusing so much on, like, because everyone's always like, oh, well, what do you want out of wrestling, or what's the end goal? And for me, like, the fun of it is just slowly chipping away, watching, seeing the improvement happen over time. So I think if you can get focused on that stuff, then everything else kind of just will happen, hopefully. Like, there's not much else you can really do, I don't think. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So before we sign out, can I just get you to let people know once again who you are and maybe where they can find you online if they just want to keep up to date with what you got coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's the all my socials are at the JAX Williams. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, or X, I guess. I'm not very active on that, but I have it. Instagram is the main one. You can find me at the JAX Williams, and I post pretty regularly about all the shows I'm on, and stuff coming up. So if just give me a follow on that, you can pretty much see where I'm at all times.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was a great time. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.